All right, Mr. Jaeger, it's great to see you again. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark. It's good to see you as well.
Well, I appreciate you participating in this leadership series, and not to put too much pressure on you, but I'm sure you're going to be able to provide a lot of insight and good conversation and perspective for our audience. So why don't we just start by introducing yourself and tell everybody who you are, a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Ed Jaeger. I live in the South Bay area, Southern California. I'm married and I have three small children, and I'm a certified entrepreneur in the respect that all I've done is create companies basically from a thought or a concept to hopefully something big and successful. And this started at the age of 18, and my biggest success to date is a company called Ironclad, www.ironclad.com, and Ironclad Performance Wear is the actual incorporation name, and the concept was to bring technology to an old market of hand protection and to make gloves technical with use for the end user. So technology would give him something different for every task he had on the job. And it started as a small idea, and it has grown into something very successful today. It's a brand known in its market, but certainly around the world. And founded the company and ran it as the CEO, took the company public in 2006, and then just recently stepped down from the CEO position, handed it off to a new guy, more seasoned, more gray hair, more experience. And I'm a consultant for the business, and he's done a great job. And I'm looking for new opportunities where I can share what I've learned with new boards and new people.
Well, it leads me to the next question, which I think is a perfect segue. You do have a unique background, certainly entrepreneurial. You've had some experience, public, private companies, international, been involved in. And how did that innovative, creative mindset evolve? Where did it come from?
Well, certainly the international part of it started as necessity. My very first product was an anti-theft device, and it was made of basically stainless steel that was stamped together and powder coated, and a very simple product, but although patented and served a purpose, I was able to make it right here in the good old US of A. Once I got the bug and I wanted to be in the entrepreneurial space, my second company was a spoof on Garfield, which ended up being a plush toy. Garfield was a plush toy. We were a plush toy. And in order for me to make that product and make the margins I needed on it to sell it at a reasonable retail price, a price close to Garfield, I had to make it overseas. So I was forced to go to Korea for one of my very first companies as I was a young man in my early to mid-20s. And so once you started bringing in product from overseas or traveling overseas, you automatically were involved in international business, as well as our company found great success in selling this product. It was called the Crushed Critter. Again, it was a satire on Garfield. And most of our business was overseas, believe it or not. As Garfield was popular overseas, we were popular overseas. So that was my first taste of international business, including international trade shows, which was a lot of fun as well. So got to meet some great people, got to travel to some great countries. And to end your question, how did that continue on? It seemed like every other product that I created that had any technology in it or any creativity in it needed to be made overseas. So since then, my ceiling fan company and even recently my glove company, Ironclad, everything's been made overseas. If it's not Indonesia, it's been Korea or it's been Vietnam or China.
So let me ask you a question. Were you this innovative, this creative, this risk-taking, if you will, as a kid too?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that just by raising my three kids right now. My son is by the book and by the record and doesn't want to step over the line and won't go into the gray area at all. He's very much predictable and it's what's made him a phenomenal athlete and an A-plus student on the dean's list. But if I ask him to step out of that very tight and controlled circle, he can't do it. He does not get that from me.
Well, you'd be good. You'd be good partners then.
I would be great partners with my son. Too bad he's only 12, but yes, I would be great.
Hey, listen, 12 these days, they create a lot of different things.
That's true.
Your kids and yourself. This is a leadership series, and it's very interesting what we hear from people. But you've been a CEO, you've been a young entrepreneur. Do you feel that leadership can be taught and learned, or is it just natural?
No, I think that it's definitely going to be taught and learned. It's my passion is motorcycle riding, and I had dreams of being a professional motorcycle racer and later becoming a professional car racer. And the whole time I was growing up, certainly in my era, I was like, no one's going to teach me how to do this. Saddle time is going to teach me how to do this. The more I do it, the better I'm going to get. That's not the way it is anymore. My son has become a fantastic football player because he has coaches. He's done great in school because he has a tutor. He's done great in snowboarding because he's had someone teach him how to do it, and so on. So I definitely believe that skills can be taught. There's a lot of things that are inherent. My daughter's a great artist. I'm not, but she's a great artist. It's something that's inherent, and she's been able to expand on that. My other daughter's a great.
Interrupt. You referred to skills being taught. Can the leadership to utilize those skills or help other people develop? Can that be taught?
I think so. I definitely think so.
Were you
as long as they're willing to learn, as long as they're willing to listen. You can't be too set in your ways, and you've got to keep an open mind and an open ear. I truly believe that.
Those are good leadership qualities. You're right. An executive with a pro team told me something a while back. He said every year their team would aim to win the championship. That was the goal, to win the championship. But they knew they couldn't win it every single year. I mean, it's tough, but you go for it. He said one thing, though, that they did require was they had consistent winning seasons. That's what they wanted. And I compare a lot to sports, and we can relate on this. And businesses want to have consistent, profitable seasons. How did you create like a winning culture and winning products when you're dealing with some, exceptionally smart people, talented people, others, to be successful?
It's a really good question. In my younger days, I would say with my early products, the excitement level was there, and the product was doing well enough on its own. It wasn't because we were motivating people to buy the product. It wasn't because we were doing a great deal of marketing or advertising. Things just moved slowly and differently in those days. In today's market, things are very much about the team and what the team is able to accomplish as a group or as a whole, hence the word a team. So what I know now, just from running Ironclad as the CEO for 16 years, was that, actually it's been 15 years, I've been out for a year, is that it was the whole of the parts that really created a value for us. So we had many different moving teams or cells within the organization, but provided that each one of these cells was working together congruently to make a goal, we were able to reach and exceed our goals. But one thing we did have to take into account was it was daily grind. It was one foot after the other, day in, day out. What we used to call it was to be pouring another skim coat or another thin layer on our foundation, and then after a certain period of days and weeks and months and years, you started to have this very strong foundation, this form that could hold up what you were trying to create. And the only way to get there is one foot in front of the other. It's the only way to get there. It's very, very, very difficult any other way. You could buy a business and have a jump start. You could absorb something else, another entity that could give you a jump start. But regardless, you need to work in unison as a team, and that just takes time.
You'd appreciate this. Another thing they say in sports and in business is trust the process, trust who you are and where you're going. I'd assume you'd agree with that then, because that sounds like what you're talking about.
I totally agree with that. It's processes and trust are all part of a game plan, part of a team. So if you're trying to work the ball downfield, you may not be able to make it in your first couple of downs. And if you're playing a running game, you just chip away at it, and soon enough you're down the field. And it's the same thing here. It's very easy to get distracted in business. There's so many great opportunities once your company gets going that you can take a couple of these opportunities and get totally distracted. You could decide that you want to sell overseas because you're doing so well in America. Let's sell overseas. That's a different battle, completely different battle. And although you may think you're going to double your size by doing so, it's what goes with it that could be detrimental, and how to unwind it that could be even more detrimental. So I learned very early on from a lot of wise people that were around me, and a wise man that was on my board of Ironclad in particular, was very hesitant to us growing overseas because of what it would take to unwind the process if we didn't have success. And we were pushing and pushing and pushing on it. And he was just telling us, look, I know more than you guys. We don't want to go overseas until we've mastered it in this country. Then we can go overseas. And that was very good advice.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Let me ask you a question related to boards. You've worked with boards, looking to be on boards. Their board members are valued leaders if they're the right fit. What do you consider the right fit on a board is, and why would you be a good fit on a board?
All right, well, that's a really good question, because I've been on the Ironclad board. I've seen so much good. I've seen so much bad, and bad meaning that where people may not have been involved as much as I maybe wanted them to. They could have been more engaged, or what help they were able to bring to the company. It lasted a period of time, and it would have been great for them to move on and get a new person on the team so that we got new help. Even if I'm on a couple different boards right now, but I couldn't see being on for 5+ years in a row. I would think, okay, you've got my Rolodex, you've got my thinking process. Right. Let's make room for the next guy to be on a board. I just happen to believe in that from my historics. So why do I think I'd be good on a board? One thing I do is I would be pretty selective. Boards I'm on right now, which I'm on 2 right now, I'm very much involved in the company. The CEO has my cell phone number. I talk to him on a regular basis. He calls me when he's having a challenge. He calls me. I ask him to call me when he's feeling down and out. I'm like, I'm in your court. I'm your backstop. So what's your problem? What is the challenge? You're having a challenge with a shareholder. You're having a challenge with a group of shareholders. You're having a challenge with employees, or sales are down. And so sometimes it's just there for the therapy of he's actually able to talk to somebody that's not going to criticize him, Absolutely. That's going to look at what his options are to fix things, and will help by history, by historics, by tribal knowledge. I can help him work through these troubled times. That's critical. That's really critical. And that comes from, like I say, historics, having been there. But it also comes from knowing their product and knowing the key players on their team. So if I was on a board of a company as these 2 other boards, I know the shareholders. I know who they are. I know some of their challenges and some of their wants and needs. I know who their VP of sales are, and I know where they make their product, and I like their product. So the connection becomes quite easy. So I couldn't see being involved on a board where I couldn't make the connection with the people, with the product, and certainly with the CEO.
No, I think that's brilliant. I must be hanging around the Brits too long. I've been saying brilliant a lot these days. But I think it is brilliant because, and boards are changing a lot these days too, where there's more diversity, there's more changing, there's more involvement, which makes just total common sense, like you say. So I couldn't agree more. We were talking a little bit about social media before. That's another area where experts need to be on a board with what's going on with social media. What I find with leaders these days is funny, especially CEOs. I had one tell me something a while back. He said, I used to be able to have a meeting in my office, figure out stuff, heart-to-heart talks, and they leave. Now I have a meeting in my office, and before the meeting's over, our meeting's on Twitter, basically. Have you seen, there's pros and cons to everything. Have you seen the impact social media, cybersecurity, et cetera, has had on business and the actions leaders take?
Yeah, well, there's no ignoring it. There just isn't any chance to get around it. I remember my very first company, people were telling me, once you get off this teletype or whatever it was called in those days, you're going to get this cool little fax machine. I'm like, what's a fax machine? This teletype works perfect with our factories. Yep. So, it just steamrolls you if you don't get out ahead of it or in front of it. Because social media is very hip, it's young, and it's changing so quickly. Many things. One, it can't be ignored because there's a giant following. Two, it's very viral, very instantly social.
Right.
And three, it can drive revenue back to your business if it's managed properly. People want to follow others that have done things right or correctly. It could be a product that someone wants to make sure somebody else used with great success. So they can trust through social media, through social relationships, in asking, what did you think of that product? And get good feedback. Not from a store who wants to sell it, not from a website that's making money, but from an end user that can give you true feedback because he's like-minded. Maybe you're both in the same sport. Maybe you're both in the same business. Maybe you're both challenged with the same automotive technology. It's good to get that feedback from the people. And if you're smart in how you manage this, you drive it right back to sales. And those sales typically are online sales where you're making 70, 80 margin. So it can't be ignored. I recommend, even in what I've seen for both Ironclad and some other businesses that I'm involved in on a consulting basis, is that typically the person who's involved in this is much younger than the rest of us guys. They're much younger.
Speak for yourself. But you're right. You're right.
But they're certainly of the X generation.
Yeah, because they've grown up with it, and you're certainly right. And
correct.
One of the biggest
they've grown up with it. They know it. They're comfortable with it, and for them, they can do it or sleep.
No, you're right. And one of the biggest things I've seen is again, diversity on boards, having that expertise, and everybody wants authenticity these days. Like you said, they don't want to be sold. They want to be informed and educated, et cetera, et cetera. So you're right on the money. So we have a couple of personal questions, not too personal, but personal questions.
Sure.
Kind of 1 or 2 word answers. Do you have any pets?
Yes. We have. I can't say in 1 or 2 words, but I wish I could. We have 4 dogs. My wife raises chickens at our house. We have a little farm area with chickens. We get fresh eggs every day. My kids have rabbits, turtles, lizards, tons of koi fish, and a small guinea pig.
Well, that's awesome. We're doing a program that's going to be coming up in a while that was brought up by one of our executives who had a dog jump on his lap during a video interview. And he said, you should do executives and their pets. And we evolved it. And it's going to be called Pets and Their Executives. So when you get a chance, you'll have to take a picture with your 4 dogs or more and send it to me, and we'll include it.
I will do that I'll try to do it with the chicken coop behind me and the 4 dogs and maybe the bunny rabbits. I'll try to see as much as I possibly can.
I'll leave that one up to you.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have a favorite activity or sport, even though I think I know?
So it's always been the same thing for me. It's always been motorsports. So I grew up riding and racing motorcycles, and I've gone on to realize my mortality. So I spend more time when it comes to being competitive on 4 wheels than on 2 wheels. But that's always been my love. Has been the art of functioning sports, functioning arts, and I like that. That's where I've been. My children are the exact opposite. They love soccer and football and water polo and everything else, so I keep them safe in that world.
Smart. Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
Oh, geez. Yeah, my favorite movie ever, Tombstone. I could probably recite or quote every line. And TV show. The truth of the matter is I haven't watched that much television in a long time. I mean, there's so many shows that are out right now that to follow it, but I can tell you what my favorite recent series was Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
That one got me, and from just people say they didn't like the pilot. I said it was the most amazing pilot I ever saw, and it got me hooked. And to watch that show, I could watch 4 or 5 episodes a night just to get caught up, because I didn't come into it for about a year later. And
people.
Yeah, that one's without an argument.
How about favorite type of music and food?
Well, I'll answer the second one first. So I've become a very clean eater in this last year. I was not a clean eater before. I didn't eat bad, as I try to explain to my wife and my kids. But if you put a hamburger and fries in front of me 3 times a day, I'd eat it all. And I've changed from that dramatically in the last year, and it's enabled me to have a much, much better health. I ate on the run, and now I'm eating to enjoy eating. So the quick answer is my favorite food is salad with fish in it or salad with chicken in it. For whatever reason, I crave it and I eat it as much as I possibly can. It could be kale salad or regular salad, Chinese chicken salad. I'm a salad guy. My body runs on it great, and I feel much better afterwards than eating anything big or solid. And you said favorite music. I'm still stuck in the 80s. I'm still the Depeche Mode guy. And I'm still listening to K-Rock, and I listen to Sirius Radio with Richard Blade. I'm stuck there. It's fun to hear the diversity. My children listen to modern day music, so I get to hear it all the time in the background, but that's still my era.
It's a good place to be stuck. Hey, listen, thank you so much for participating. Great talking to you, and we'll see you soon.
Great being here, Mark. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.